10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we are live. Good evening, Dr. Reid. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm so well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you at the Meticulous Moments podcast. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I am so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And here at the Meticulous Moments podcast, we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And this evening, we have the wonderful pleasure of spending time with the amazing Dr. Oliver T Reid. So before we go into this phenomenal interview, I just want to read his bio. Dr. Oliver T Reid is an international, multi-bestselling and award-winning author, motivational speaker, and the founder and president of I Am a Solution Consulting Firm, LLC, a human development organization providing specialized relationship, business consulting, counseling, and coaching services. Known as the Writing Coach, he uses cutting-edge writing coaching techniques to help entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches while leading them to live to their highest potential. In addition, he's the creator of the revolutionary interactive card game for singles and couples, the InnerView. Within the past 7 years, Dr. Reid has published 25 best-selling books, contributed to 12 anthologies, and has won multiple awards for his literary work, including the 2016 IALA Distinction of Excellence Legendary Honoree and NAACP 2016 to 2017 Black Men Image Award. Dr. Oliver T Reid has had the distinct honor of speaking to millions around the world and coaching individuals on 4 continents. Dr. Reid has been featured on HuffPost, Black Enterprise, ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, Roku TV, and other international media outlets. Welcome, Dr. Reid. We are so privileged to have you here this evening.
I am so honored to be here, Juanita. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, I read your bio, and I've had the privilege of meeting you and your beautiful wife in New Jersey this year in the United States. And I just, we've talked and we've had meetings before, but for those in the audience that are not acquainted with you yet, would you just introduce yourself and mention something that is very important in your life? What's the most important thing in your life at this part of your journey?
Yes, thank you so much. I am Dr. Oliver T Reid, the writing coach, and I help entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches get the book that's stuck in their head out in the pages of the world. And I believe that everybody has a story. So what's most important for me is helping individuals get the story that they have out into the world. I think that's no more important thing than that. When we leave this place, we know that living on earth is not forever, to write a story that will outlive us. So that's very, very important for me.
That is a wonderful way of putting it. And, it's true. Our stories will live on even after we have gone to be with the Lord. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we had a wonderful virtual coffee, and you told me your life story and the struggles and the obstacles that you faced. And I mean, who better to tell that to the audience than you? So I would love for you to share what you shared in our virtual coffee about your life, how you grew up, the things that you faced, the things that tried to, be obstacles and hindrances to this path that you're on. But those things were the things that you overcame. And here you are today empowering other people. Would you love to share that with the audience, please?
I would love to. It's one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes in our darkest hour or our darkest day, is when we get the message and revelation, right? And from that standpoint, I grew up in a inner city project, single parent home. And with that, I, had a lot of challenges. My dad abandoned me when I was young, and wasn't there primarily for most of my life. And that led to my mom being with another gentleman, which was my stepfather, who then turned out to be an abuser for so many years. And so from there, growing up, I used to kind of wish as a kid, sometimes like I wish I was invisible, because when he would come in upset for whatever it may be, he would come in and abuse me physically. And I remember saying, man, what's going on? I even in that, I still wanted to have that embrace of a father, And so from there, long after that, I was this kind of angry kid. I had a good life as far as having fun, but inside I was angry because I was always like the third wheel to somebody else's family. So I would go to my friend's house and his dad would be there, and my dad wasn't there, basketball games, whatever it may be. And from that standpoint, I grew up very angry. So fast forwarding in 1995, not knowing what depression was my freshman year in college. And I remember being very depressed, crying, missed over most of my classes that semester, was flunking out of school. And in 1995, it came to a head. I basically didn't know what was going on the inside of me and wanted to take my life and sought to take my life. So I took an overdose of these pills on Christmas Day, 1995. So while everybody else was unpacking and wrapping gifts or unwrapping gifts, I was in a mental ward being assessed to see if I was going to stay in there. My fate was going to be in that mental hospital so they can run tests or diagnostics to figure out what's going on with me, or would I be released back to the world? Thankfully, I never forget this. There was a lot of people who prayed for me. They basically left their Christmas Day with their family and they came over to the place where I was, and I could hear their prayers. And so as they were praying, God was working. So I ended up not being admitted, finishing out college, going on to get several degrees after that. But I knew at that particular moment, after I kind of rededicated my life, right, to God, to really His purpose in my life, that there was something major that He wanted to do in me. And I started to really explore what that is, that turning point, that light bulb moment kind of came when I was 19 years old. And so from that point on, I've endeavored to help people who are experiencing or experience the pain that I went through, and even a deeper pain, to help them articulate that story. But what was common for me is that I always would write during these daunting times. I would find a tablet. Those was back in the day. We had the little metal binders, and we had the little cord where you tear the sheets out. And I would just find something to write and express my feeling, whether that was in music or arts. And so that story really burst in me later on in life. Fast forward, I reconciled with my dad. And at the time when I reconciled with my dad, I forgave him. We reconciled, and then he was also taken from this earth. He was murdered. And so I, in that particular time, went back to writing again. And so I endeavored to tell his story from the grave, and to tell his story in a way that can bless others.
Wow, that is amazing to hear everything that you faced. You went through it, and you came out on the other side, and you started living with hope and intention and this mission, really to help people that are maybe currently at that place, or people that are hiding behind certain veils from the world. I realized in the ministry, Dr. Reid, you will know this, that a lot of people that come to church that are there on a Sunday, or a lot of people that we even work with in the corporate space or whatever field we are working in, they often hide the things that they go through because they feel that they're going to be ridiculed. They feel that somehow they fall short. And it's almost as if they internalize their problems. And the first thing I always tell the youth when I work with them is, your problem is not you. It is an obstacle. You need to remove yourself from what you are going through. You are not the situation. You are in the situation. And I'm just so happy to hear that when you were in that situation, people actually came to you and they prayed for you, because we don't often see that. If only more people would do that, I'm sure we would bring down the suicide rate
Hmm.
tremendously out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a pivotal point, and I attribute that to my mom being very faith-based. And
Yeah.
at the time, she was leading a congregation, and just the love that I felt with people leaving their families just to come to see if I was all right on Christmas Day, right? Or it was late in the afternoon by then, but it showed the love that sometimes, like you said, is not there, and I just needed to have that love in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you feel when you felt, when you hear them praying for you, when you heard them praying for you? You know, it's Christmas Day. No one wants to be removed from their family. It's Christmas Day, and here's people praying for you. What was that feeling that came up in your spirit when you heard that and you realized you are valued, you are precious, you have a space in this world?
Yeah, it was an overwhelming feeling of joy and gratitude. It was almost like I said, I do matter.
Yeah.
I'm being heard, I'm being seen, I'm being visible. And I think that it gave me a comfort. And it was funny because
Beautiful.
at the same time, the psychologist, I believe it was,
Yeah.
asked me, psychologist or psychiatrist, I always get them mixed up, but
Yeah.
he asked me, he said, "Hey, do you hear voices?" And when he said that to me, I kind of looked at him and said, "Yes, I hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. I hear the voice
Beautiful.
of people praying. I hear the voice." And he stopped. He said, "Oh, out there." And I was like, "Yeah." And so it was almost, you don't tell your psychologist or psychiatrist that you hear voices. You don't do that, right?
The
But
no,
it was at
no.
that moment, so no, it's a no brainer. You don't do that. But it was basically like I said that, and he heard the people praying. And I think from that, it broke further confirmation that I began to tell them that I hear the Lord in my spirit. I hear attachment that was broken at one point being reestablished in that very moment.
Fantastic. I always say to people, sometimes we wait for, these announcements to happen in our lives, and then we think our lives will change. But it's really in the little things. It's in those moments. You were sitting there with him, and they were talking with you, and in that moment, life started making sense. And I love to reminisce. I always write down when I have special moments. What happened and how it made me feel. And you mentioned that you had the privilege, thank God, to reconcile with your father before you went to be with the Lord. What was that conversation like? And were you at peace? I'm sure when he passed eventually, and you knew things were fixed between you.
Yeah, one of the things that what got me is I was in my high education,
Yeah,
getting my degree in theology and some other things, and then I was confronted because I had seen my dad. This is a amazing story. I seen my dad like between 5 and 7 times in my life prior to that, right? And sometimes he would live maybe 30 minutes away, and I didn't see him. But when he came back into my life, he reached out to my mom and he basically said, uh, get my son to call me, right? And I was furious at that time. I had my children of my own, and I'm like, I thought I was delivered from all of this. I thought I was moving forward, and I'm like, he couldn't even call me himself. Why should I call him? So I was really at that particular point, ego tripping, mad, angry. It brought up that 5-year-old little kid standing at the window waiting for him to come when he never did. I was in my 30s at the time, and I remember being in the parking lot of a
yeah,
McDonald's,
yeah,
Juanita, just sitting there crying like this kid
yeah.
at the window. And I remember people walking by and they kind of looking at me, this grown man is sitting there, big guy, just crying. And I was crying and crying. And, wife at the time, she was telling me, she said, "Hey, this is your father. No matter what's going on in your life, you need to talk to him." I'm like, "No, he's not my father. He's a sperm donor. I'm going
Yeah.
all this time. I'm not calling him." And I have to tell a story because you appreciate this.
I
But
would
I
love
go
it.
to class that night. It so happened to be a class, a spirit filled class.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I'm sitting down here in school after I pull myself together. and I'm sitting there. And normally we start, the teacher she would pray, but it was like this particular night,
Yeah.
she says, I just feel in my heart and in my spirit
Yeah, you're
that
exactly.
somebody here is carrying something, and we need to all pray and just let everybody in the room, what's going on. In my mind, I'm like, well, God, you're going to have to definitely show her, because I'm not going to tell her anything. And so I'm still in my feelings, like feeling some type of way. And so she stops and she waits a little bit because the class members are kind of looking around and kind of like saying their things. And she stops for a minute and she says, I don't even care if it's relationships, if it's
Yeah.
relationships with parents, if it's relationships with whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, now you're really speaking to me. And so basically, I then
Yeah.
say what it is. And then everybody in the class began to pour love on me again. Everybody began to pray for me again. And I remember we used to have these breaks during class where we could take 15 minutes or so. And I remember at that 15-minute break, I called my dad,
Wow.
and he's on the other end and he's about to apologize. And before he can say that, I said, I forgive you. Like I said,
Wow.
I forgive you. He said, what? And I said, I forgive you. And I'll pause to anybody watching this. What I learned in that moment is when you place honor on the thing that dishonored you, you
Yeah.
break the cycle of the dishonor.
Amen.
Now, let me say that again for somebody who may be watching it. When you place honor on the person, the thing that dishonored you,
Yeah.
you break the cycle and control. I needed to forgive my dad for me. I needed to forgive my dad, not just for him, but for me to go on and to finally get over this clutch of
Yeah.
anger or hurt. Not saying that I got over that. I still grieve to this day, right?
Yeah.
Because not having a father for those persons that are out there,
Yes.
I understand there's no replacement. There's no uncle. There's no mentor. There's no person that can come in your life that could take away the void of that.
Mm.
But from that day, we began to reconcile. And I realized that his father, in our talks, for 9 months straight, we began to dialogue. His
Yeah.
father had put rejection on him. His
Oh.
father had disowned him. His
Yeah.
father had given him a beer, which later on turned into alcoholism in his life. That was a disease
Yeah.
that prohibited him from being there. So I had to look at my faults and see,
Yeah.
okay, I need to forgive my dad.
Mm.
So somebody watching this, forgiveness is not just for the person. The
Mm.
forgiveness starts with you and you being able to relive and you be able to set yourself free
Yes.
of this. I remember, just want to give this biblical reference. There was a biblical story about a person
Yeah.
named Jacob. Jacob tricked his brother Esau for the
Yes.
right or for the legacy in our today's time
Yes.
or for the title deed. He was tricked by his
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah.
And for so long, Esau
Mm.
was bitter. And even Jacob ran in
Mm.
fury or in fear because he knew that
Yeah.
Esau was upset and livid. But God appears to Esau, and I want to share this with somebody who's watching this today.
Yeah.
And he
Mm.
says to Esau, he says, when you become restless,
Mm.
Juanita, I'm working on a book right now called
Yeah.
Restless,
Oh,
right?
wonderful.
Breaking the
Yeah.
bondage of
Yeah.
offense. I've been working on this book for years because I'm still working through the process myself,
Yeah.
right? So I'm writing
Wow.
this book, and the Lord showed me. He told Esau something
Yeah.
powerful that I want to tell people today because this is even becoming relevant in other relationships in my life now.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, he says to Esau, "When you become restless, which means
Mm.
when you rest with less." I don't know who
Yes.
I'm talking to today, but when
Yeah.
you begin to rest with the lesser portion, when
Yes.
you begin to be okay with what has been done to you from a standpoint of saying, okay, I'm not going to hold offense with this any longer, then what I love what God tells Esau is something very powerful. He said, then you will take the
Mm.
yoke or
Mm.
the stronghold of
Yeah.
your brother
Yes.
off your neck. Let me say it again. He said, now you will do it. Sometimes we're praying to God. We're seeing therapists. We're seeing all type of people to help us do this. But what God was telling Esau, when you get restless and tired, you're going to take the yoke of offense off your neck. And some of you today have to take it off your neck. You're free. I realized that I was free
Amen.
totally. Nothing could ever stop me but me.
Yeah.
And until I was able to say, let me take this off my neck. And that's what happened in the 9 months. So when he was murdered, I was able to rest. Still not
Yes.
at peace in a lot of areas because I miss a lot of things I wish could have happened. But from a standpoint, I could say that I didn't hold anything against my father.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So what you
I
have to realize, on the other side, what you never know the next second. The things you're holding, people have forgot
yeah.
about. The things you're holding is impacting you. It manifests in your health, it manifests in your life and your happiness. Take the yoke off. Rest with less. Because I realize that the lesser portion is always more than enough.
Amen. Amen. I love that. I love that. I was thinking while you were speaking, when we come to points of reconciliation, forgiveness really, before you can really look at a situation, you have to do introspection. We all
Hmm.
we all have been there. We carry these things with us, and we realize that forgiveness takes that introspection where we have to search our hearts and say, we are also just human. We also make mistakes, and therefore we extend that grace and that love and that
Hmm.
acceptance, and we forgive someone. And offense is something that stifles the growth, the spiritual growth, all areas of growth of the person who has taken offense. That other
Yeah.
person is not even aware of the fact that you've taken offense or that you are carrying this heavy load. You are the one walking in that and carrying that load, like you've mentioned. So, thank you for articulating that so well. I know there's someone in the audience that had to hear that. And I also want to say and add with you, that life is a certain amount of years. Don't waste
Hmm.
those beautiful years by carrying offense and unforgiveness, because you're wasting time, you're wasting the opportunity to have valuable relationships, to have peace, and to be in a restful state. Thank you so much for that, Doctor. And I noticed when I met you and your beautiful wife, you're a family man. You're an open spirit. You're very it's comfortable and easy to speak with you. What are those joy, those moments that you love to spend with them, and your values that you hold on to?
Yeah. One of the things that I love is when spending time with family is really when we can bond and just do nothing but something. I
Lovely.
think a lot, nothing but something, because sometimes it's like, oh, let's plan this vacation, or
Yeah.
oh, let's do this particular thing. But what I love about that family time is when we're able just to be in the car, sitting somewhere talking, and now all of my kids are older. My kids are, away in college or grown adults.
Yeah.
You miss those simple times of just being able to sit down and have a
Yeah.
conversation. And one of the things I realized, and a wise mentor told me one time, he said, when you come to the end of your life, you're not thinking about all the vacations you took, all the jewelry that you have, or how
Yeah.
many degrees your children have, how many you have, what you're going to think about, those sentimental moments where you experience love, where you experience happiness, when those memories, where you created memories. So I love the times when we are able to create those memories, and those lasting things that I can look back at now they're older and now in college, and I'm kind of begging for a phone call, right? Those times when they were right up under me, or we were doing something together as a family.
Yeah. My goodness, that's true. That's true. And I always tell people when they ask me how old my children are, I always think back to when they were small, and then I think to myself, if only those times could have lasted longer, because inevitably they grow up and they change, and they're not. I always think back to when they were little kids and they started talking. Those little voices and the way they formed words. That is something that will always stay with me. So you are completely correct with that, and that's why it's so important to bring our stories to the world, because other people want to hear and relate to our stories. And I wrote today in a newsletter that I wrote, I said, your book brings your life to life. And what did I mean by that? It brings your
Yeah.
life to life for someone else. They read it. I mean, I've picked up books and I started reading, and it feels like I'm on that street, standing under that lamppost and looking at that mountain that they describe, and really to take people through that journey and that adventure. What a blessing it is to have a story and to share that with the world. And I want to ask you about your business, Dr. Reid, because I realize that you have so many services. I've seen, what you do. I follow you on social media, and I would like for you to tell the audience, what does your business do, and what products do you put out there? What can they contact you for and connect to you with about?
Certainly, we help entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches write books. And through the levels of coaching, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, as well as ghostwriting, where people may not feel that they will ever articulate their story effectively. We got you
Yeah.
covered because we actually will articulate that story with you. And I work with ghostwriters, seasoned ghostwriters, as well as myself, to bring that story to life.
Yeah.
We also help in the nonprofit world, so all things writing. We write grants. We help people, coach them through grants. And actually, I speak and I coach again on so many different platforms, and been blessed to be on 4 continents. I've done it already, looking to go more and
Fantastic.
higher. But the biggest thing we do is help you get the book out of your head, right? Get that story that's kicking inside of you on to the world, onto the pages of the world, and helping you know what your story is.
Mm. Phenomenal, phenomenal. For anyone in the audience that are looking to write their book, reach out to Dr. Reid. We're going to put his contact details here in the description and make contact with him. I always ask the audience to network as well with the guests, because you are always, we are here to connect and collaborate and uplift each other. Now, I saw posts last year before I met you in person. I saw posts about, and I believe it was a weekend event, if I'm not mistaken, that you had the
Yes.
milk. I believe it was the milk conference. Please tell us more about that. That was so fascinating, that title you gave it.
Yes, milk, and you'll see it all over our business. Milk is a acronym for the 4 basic steps that I take people through in getting the book out of their head onto the pages. And even if you have a book, you can plug these principles. So the M is
Yeah,
for the messaging, really messaging. It
yeah,
starts with the messaging. You remember we always used to hear back in the day, and it was a negative connotation when people say, "Hey, that person is really milking it." That person is milking it, but you really want to milk your story. So M is messaging,
yeah.
I is implementation. So I is the implementation. So basically, now that you have your message, then we talk about how do you implement that, execute it. And then L is linking it together. Now that we got the message and implementation, how do we link this together across all these different platforms? There's social media. There's things you got to think about. So we help you to merge the two. How do you marry this, right? Because your book can be a podcast. Your book could be a whole movement,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So as you know, there's so many ways you can go. And then K is the knowledge, knowing your book. This is where people will invest in you. This is where people will book you. This is the information that you've been through that you can share with others. So we had a milk writing experience. And one of the things I love to do, Anita, is I love helping entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches write the book on what they already do. Well, that's
Mm,
one thing to write a
yeah.
story. If you're watching this about your life, that's all great. But if you're an entrepreneur, speaker, and coach, and you have not written a book on what you already do, you're leaving your potential clients out, no matter what
Mm,
level. Think about it. All the major people, coaches, entrepreneurs,
yeah.
have one thing in common. They are still writing books. Why are they writing books? Right?
Yeah.
Why do you see John Maxwell still writing books? Why do you see Eric Thomas still writing books? Why do you still
Mm,
see Bill Gates writing books? People,
yeah.
writing books, right? Is because the book, a lot of people say that it's a business card, but I always say it's the next deposit. It
Yes.
also gets you to places where you would never even physically be.
Mm,
The book will precede you. So this whole weekend was to work with these entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches to get the book out of their head. So a lot of them went on to write, and it has actually inboxed me, even
yeah.
from the networks we're in, like, "Hey, I came to your conference and I wrote my book the next week." And
Wow.
so it's really amazing. So we have these experiences where we just take you through coaching, all kind of different things, and have fun. eat great food, and experience great things. So that was the milk writing experience.
That looked so wonderful, and at that time, I had other things here in South Africa. And I was watching that on social media, and I thought to myself, "Man, I would have loved to have gone to that weekend."
Yes, we missed you. You would have loved it.
Thank you, Dr. Reid. Now, I know you have an upcoming event. Is it in September? What month
Yes.
is it going to be? Please tell the audience. I know it's only for men, so I want to tell the audience a joke I made with Dr. Reid, because I really wanted to go. So that conference is for men, and I said, Dr. Reid, if I put on a beard, can I also attend? Please tell us about that event.
Yes, listen, we know you're more than welcome. We are looking for women, female volunteers that will help out. But we love that. Uh, uh, but it is something that's really at my core. Going back to my story about me and my father, going back to empowerment, I was able to really get back on track by being surrounded by some strong men and in my life. And so what I'm doing now is something I did 10 years ago. It's been an entire decade since I've done it. It's called He Men's Conference, and it's really geared to men empowerment and sons. So men and their sons. A all male exclusive event that is a faith-based but holistic approach. We're going to be meeting in Atlanta September 22nd through the 23rd, 2 full days from us really just gathering as men to working on our mental health, to assessing our businesses, to working in fitness, to working with our mindset, to worship. I mean, I've assembled a multicultural speakers forum with about 20 or so speakers that will share the stage with me in breakout sessions in fitness and like listen in so many different ways. And the theme of this year that we're going to be calling it is mud. MUDD, which is really going back to if you got dirt on your life, like me, you came out of being, a bastard child, as some people would say. For me, if I was, for example, my dad wanted my mom to abort me. I came out of the mud. If you came out of the mud, if you came out of rejection, and not even from a family standpoint, but what you've been through mud in business, you've been through mud of divorce. You've been through suicide. So we got people that's been on the platform, that's going to be on the platform that have had over 12 years in incarceration. From people who have, committed, tried to commit suicide, to individuals of all walks of life that will help men. So we're doing that in September in Atlanta, Georgia, for 2 full days. And I'm super excited. We're gathering, at least at minimum, we're looking to get 300 men together in one room.
Fantastic. That is going to be so impactful. We need more events like that in this world. I think it's a phenomenal idea. And anyone in the audience in that room, sign up for this event. You will never look back. You will just be equipped and empowered and restored and revitalized, and you will just carry on with your life, because that's what happens when we come together in a corporate manner and we really lock hands and we work together to make the world a better place. Thank you so much. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And you were speaking about having leaders and mentors in your life. Now, I also grew up without a father. I only ever had my mom. And I have to agree with you. We do get ridiculed in school. We do get bullied because we are not, part of the status quo. But it makes us stronger, like you've mentioned, and it helps us in other areas. But I can think back of to mentors that came across my path. God really brought leaders across my path to kind of give me that guidance and help me in the times that I really needed direction when that place in my life was vacant. Would you speak to the audience about leaders that God brought along your path, and what did they teach you? Or maybe there was one that stood out and you remember the words he told you in a certain time.
Yes, one of the things that really sticks out is after my suicide attempt, right? I remember that really felt dear to me and kind of promotes what I do now, from a standpoint of when I kind of rededicated my life. It was at a TD Jakes, Bishop TD Jakes men's conference.
Oh, I know him. I know
Yes,
about, it's one of his
yes.
Bibles.
Yes, he has so many different things, so many similarities that we have. I always look up to him. I never physically met him, but he's always mentored me from his messages because he's a writer, his books, and just his message. And I remember rededicating my life inside of a men's conference that was happened to be in my same college town after my suicide attempt. So
Yeah.
basically, I remember being there crying and worshiping God and being restored. And he began to gather. I think at that time he had 20,000 men who was in a coliseum. I had never saw that before because in
Wow.
church and in my faith-based walk, I always seen more women who were there than men. And so I never can forget that these men were there. That wasn't there for a football game. It wasn't there for any other thing, but they were in a place. And
Yeah.
so for years, I've watched his walk, his process. He was able to mentor me, to help me. There was people like a guy named Kevin Graham who came alongside of me and informed some of the things that I needed to have. Right. There was a guy named Nipsey. He worked at a local when I was a kid. He worked at a Boys and Girls Club as a
Oh,
coach,
yeah.
and I never. He gave me my first pair of Air Jordan shoes. He took us camping, so we were raised in the inner city projects, and Nipsey would always find these exciting adventures to take us to, like camping. Being in the
Yeah.
projects, inner city kid, we didn't know anything about camping. He took us camping. He talked
Yeah.
about manhood and masculinity. He would take trips and invite us to his house. So he didn't just treat us as, okay, we're just kids and this is my job. He surrounded us with his love, his wisdom, his expertise, and from everything from teaching us sports to teaching us how to be a man and to be accountable, I
Yeah.
got from him.
Beautiful. And all children, especially boys, need that. They need that father figure in their life. So thank God that that event and those people came across your path. He came across your path really to give you that guidance. And I know God has a heart for people that grow up without one of their parents. I felt so lost in 2020 when my mom
Hmm.
passed away. I felt like I was the last person on earth because I only have my children. And I said to the Lord, because I just gone through a divorce after many
Hmm.
years of trying to fix that. And I said to the Lord, I went to the Lord. I guess he was just smiling at me because he has a sense of humor. I said, Lord, your Bible says you have a soft heart for a widow and for an orphan. I said, now I'm both. I'm a widow and I'm an orphan.
Yes,
So
yes.
bless me more. And we had a chuckle together. So God is so good. And it's just so amazing to hear your story. I would love for you to tell us if you had something that you was thinking about maybe during this session or maybe during the last few days. And I know we connected a few days ago as well. You always have such a spirit of gratitude, and you have this energy of strong leadership around you. And I believe that God has placed that in your life because you lead everybody that you work with. You lead men at these conferences, and you lead as the husband and father of your family. Is there something this evening that you would like to impart to any young man out there that is, struggling without a mentor or a leader in their life? Something that you would like to impart into their spirit?
Yes, one of the things that I really want to share with the leaders that sometimes you have to flow
Yes,
in the spirit of first. Let me say it
beautiful.
again. You have to flow in the spirit of first. I was the first one in my generation to go to college. I was the first one to write a book. I was the first one to overcome suicide. I was the first one. So being the first is not just the pretty stuff. Being the first is you have to be the first in your bloodline to overcome the mess. Going back, when you
Yes,
overcome the mess in the
it's a hard.
age that you live
Yeah.
in, mess and age, I always coin this phrase that if you can overcome the mess in your age, you will have a message,
Wow. I love
right?
that.
So
Wow.
mess and age is the dispensation of when you are in that moment in your life,
Yeah.
but you're
Yeah.
dealing with mess from previous fathers, from previous people
Yeah.
that was in your generation, right? And I
Yeah.
had to realize that my battle wasn't just for Oliver. My battle was for my father, his father, my great
Wow.
grandfather, their children, until he finds a first.
Yes.
You are
It
the first
rises
one.
up. Yeah.
So don't try to keep a tally on what your family came from or keeping a checklist.
Yeah.
You are the first. I was the first one that failed. I was the first one that failed at certain things in my life. So I had to own it all. So every leader own all of it. People see the pretty resume, they see the bio, they see the books.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people, they say, well, how do you keep writing these books, Juanita? How do you keep doing all these things? You have over 40 books and you keep writing. I said, because I always have content. I am still healing as I heal.
Yeah.
Somebody need to write that down. I am still healing as I heal. Right. I am still going through dark moments. Look, social media is the highlight reel. It's the clips.
Oh, yes.
It's what we want people to see. People don't see the crying and the tears and the accusation and the broken friendships in order to lead. But I realized something. You have to still be the first to flow. You have to be the first. And so what I've learned in my generation, there will never, ever be another Oliver T Reid like me. There will never, ever be another Juanita Kapp like you. There will never be another person in planet Earth. This is the first fruit. This is the first one. You are the first leader of your family. Don't look at somebody else's family and try to lead from the other family's perspective. You are the first fruit. You are the first husband. You are the first father. You are the first son. You are the first wife. And if you can understand that I'm always in the mindset of first, I'm always in the mindset of first. Even when I fail, I'm always in the mindset of, I failed at that. Let me get up tomorrow and do it. I'm always in the first day. I'm always coming back in the first day. Oh, you failed at this. I can't remember that because this is my first time doing it on this day.
Yeah.
Because they, you failed so many times, but this is the first time I'm doing it today.
Yeah. Exactly. I love that mindset. And that is why you write so many books. And that's why you put on, these wonderful conferences that really help and heal people because of your mindset, because of the way you honor God and you view life. It's so wonderful to hear you break open these biblical principles, because those are biblical principles that you've applied in your life, and that is the inspiration. I agree. We heal while we're healing, and every day is a new day, and who knows what tomorrow brings? But we can always count on God always being there by our side and helping us to realize what you've just explained to us, that we are the first fruits. That's a wonderful way to say it. I've never heard anyone say it in that manner. Thank you so much for saying that and for teaching us on that. And I want to ask you, what are you grateful for today? Is there something that stands out, anything that comes up in your spirit? Because here we love to talk about gratitude, and you're always so open, and you're so friendly, and I know that you live a life of gratitude. Would you tell the audience, what are you grateful for today?
This is going to sound very cliche. And as people know, we did not make this interview up. We're going impromptu. So I'm just kind of flowing what the spirit is really saying. One of the things that I will say, and I say in my book called Words from the Low Place, your low is for God's highest. I say that your low places in life are really high places inverted. Your low places in life are really high places inverted. It's how you shift it. Is the cup half empty or half full? Right? And so from there, what I'm grateful for is this. I'm grateful for the pain. This may sound funny. I'm grateful for the pain because I can still feel it. I'm going through a painful season in my life, a place of in a lot of relationships. Things have begun to be accusatory. But with that, I'm not in a place of pity. I'm thinking that I can still feel. That is some powerful.
Beautiful.
I want you to think about that. I can still feel the pain because somebody didn't wake up. They don't feel the pain. Somebody has been so wounded that they turn callous. Some people are in the mundane that they don't even really want to reach up. But thankful to God that I still feel the pain. And if I can still feel the pain, what that does, Juanita, is it increases my reliance on the specialist. Let me say that again. If I'm hurting, if your feet is hurting, you don't go to a cardiologist. You go to a
Yes.
podiatrist,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
If your
Yeah.
leg is hurting, you don't go to a swimming coach.
No.
If I'm hurting, I have to go to a specialist. Who is the specialist? I have to put it on God to say, listen,
Amen.
I need you to help me because I feel the pain. Some people go through
Yes.
life and never allow themselves to feel, so they never get healed.
Yeah.
But I am grateful that I feel the pain and that
Yes.
I am increasing my reliance
Mm.
on the greater one to take away this
Yeah.
pain, because we do this as human beings. When the pain hits us, we think we should own that pain. But this
Yeah.
pain, I have to give it to
Yes.
a specialist to take out.
Yes. Amen. Amen. I love that. That's a wonderful, wonderful way to explain that. I always say I was thinking about being between a rock and a hard place, because sometimes when we're in that pain, we don't have all the answers. And to relate to what you're saying, I was sitting there one day and I had to formulate something in between being stuck between a rock and a hard place, in a place where maybe people are accusing you, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not everyone that we work with are always cheering for us. Sometimes there's people behind the scenes, that say things they shouldn't be saying, or so sometimes we find ourselves in this difficult spot. And I sat there and I got this picture. What do you do when you are stuck between a rock and a hard place? And I actually did a
Mm,
post about it months ago. I said, you just look up. You
mm,
just look up, meaning
yes.
just search God for those answers, and He's going to show you how to get out of that. I love the way you explain that. Thank you so much. You've brought so much value to the Meticulous Moments podcast. Thank you for sharing your heart, your pain, your experiences, your joy, your successes. We cheer you on, and we're going to network with you and communicate with you more. I might just pitch up at the mud. Event with a beard as a volunteer. You never know. So that will be so much fun. But thank you for always being so open and kind. It's a privilege to know you. Thank you, Dr. Reid.
Thank you, Juanita. It's been an honor and privilege to be here. I really love what you're doing to continue the movement that you're on. It's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Dr. Reid. And to the Meticulous Moments audience, you know what to do. Let's cheer Dr. Reid on this leadership journey and keep him always in prayer, and just see everything that he's doing out there, bringing people together and just edifying them. For the last few videos. Thank you, Dr. Bye.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're the #1 fastest growing community and tribe of some of the highest level entrepreneurs all around the country and around the world. We're in 36 states across the U.S., in 11 international countries, and over 240 plus members, growing every single day. And I'm honored, excited, and I'm glad to say that I'm proud to be the official sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast with Juanita Kapp. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited for this journey.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Rude. I'm the owner of Rude Financial Services, a proud sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, hosted and directed by the beautiful, strong, and intelligent Juanita Kapp. I cannot tell you enough about what this woman has done with this podcast and the effect that she has had on me and all of the other sponsors and people that listen. Don't miss it.